Good evening. My name is Kaylee Hall. I'm a board member of the Elephant Artist Relief Society, also known as EAR, and I'm also the lead of EAR's programming committee. First, I'd like to begin tonight in the spirit of respect, reciprocity, and truth by honoring and acknowledging Mohkinstsis and the traditional Treaty 7 territory and oral practices of the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Siksika, Kainai, Pikanai, as well as the Ayaksee Nakota and Tsuut'ina nations. EAR acknowledges that this territory is also cherished by the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We celebrate all nations, Indigenous and non, who honor this land. We are grateful to engage in an honest and eager process of reconciliation. We are all treaty people. On behalf of EAR and EAR's leadership team, I'd like to officially welcome you to this Umbrella Talk. We are grateful to each of you for choosing to spend your evening with us. Thank you for being here. This evening's talk is one of an ongoing series of EAR events called Umbrella Talks. EAR's primary purpose is to empower artists in Calgary and area to survive and thrive as artists. These Umbrella Talks are one element of what we offer. This year, EAR celebrates 16 years of service to the local arts community. And even though EAR has grown and evolved over that time, our mission has remained the same: to provide practical resources that help sustain the livelihood and practice of artists in the Calgary area. To achieve this, EAR offers monthly professional and personal development talks, such as this one, a twice monthly artist meetup group called Studio E on Facebook, a wide variety of community resource information, which you can find on our website, and of course, our core program of emergency financial relief for artists who find themselves in a crisis situation. As a charitable organization, we rely substantially on you, the public, in the form of volunteerism, membership, and fundraising to do what we do. You can help us by raising awareness about EAR, and if you can, please consider donating online. Our heartfelt thanks go out to all of those who have already gifted EAR with the proceeds from memberships. Our membership is very affordable, and all the fees go to support our admin and programming, including events like the ones you're watching now, including financial assistance that we give. Okay, just one more thing before we begin. Throughout the presentation, we ask that you keep your mics off, on mute, and also please turn off your cameras so there's minimal background interference. Please feel free to use the chat box to write your questions as they come up, and we will start a record of those for the Q&A portion of the evening. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Rhys Douglas Farrell, our guest and speaker for this evening. Rhys is an emerging artist living and working in Calgary. He received his BFA with a major in drawing and painting from ACAD, what is now Alberta University of the Arts, in 2016. He is the recipient of a painting scholarship from ACAD, where he was also the representative for the painting department and a director for one of the student galleries. He was represented by Herringer Kiss Gallery as a student, and his first solo show was named by Canadian Art Magazine as a must-see. His public art projects include the Telespark Science Centre, Beltline Urban Mural Project, the City of Calgary, as well as private commissions. He has completed 5 international residencies in Spain, Sicily, Mexico, and 2 in Kuala Lumpur. So he's very busy. We're very, very happy to feature Rhys this evening for our EAR audience. And as a reminder, we will be taking question and answer. We will have a question and answer period. Please type your comments and questions into the chat. And there will be a short 10-minute break after his talk. So, welcome this evening. And Rhys, I'd like you to take it away.
Okay, thank you for the great introduction. I was gonna say most of that, I think.
Oh, no, sorry.
No, that's okay though. But yeah, so I was born and raised in Calgary. I went to school here and I've stayed here ever since. And I guess Kaylee kind of gave like a pretty good summary of my practice. And I think to start off the discussion, I was just gonna introduce my artistic practice so you guys have a little bit of a background of what I work on and what I'm doing and kind of what my goals are and where I'm trying to go with my work. So I'm gonna just show you a PowerPoint here. And okay, so one second. Okay, so my practice is mostly based on the themes of color, shape, and pattern. And I guess bringing all these elements together and kind of focusing on their principles and how they work together and create these kind of images. Um, my work is my work. Well, firstly, my work is based on color, and I kind of like to research color principles, um, different kind of theories that go with color, and as well as Gestalt theory, which kind of focuses on the combination of individual elements that are put together. And then, so I have a studio practice, and then I also do murals as a like a public art practice. So I'd say I'm kind of always working in two different avenues. So here's a oh, here's a photo of a project I did with the Urban Beltline project in 2021. So this is kind of like a larger scale mural that will kind of highlights what I'm focusing on and working on and at this point. And here's another project. It was like an indoor, like a full room kind of installation. And just some more painting. Then a photo of me working on a project. And then, yeah, I guess it's more a little bit about my studio practice. Uh, I'm focusing on optical art, which was a movement that started in the 1960s. Some big artists you might know, like Bridget Riley, for instance, or Julian Stankzak. And I guess this kind of genre of abstract painting focuses on kind of how shapes, colors, and patterns come together to create effects that are can often be related to optical illusions or have sensory effects. And then these are just some more photos of my work. This is a painting from an exhibition a couple years ago, as well as this one. And then back to my public art stuff. Um, I painted a number of projects. They're on like a three-dimensional surface, so kind of like this tunnel project. And I guess it just kind of gives another angle of, well, I guess it adds the three-dimensional aspect to a originally 2D idea. Here's some more public art stuff. And then oh, here are some projects from some residencies that I completed. So in 2018, this project was completed in Spain. And in 2018 as well, I went to Sicily and painted this project. And this was in a studio in Kuala Lumpur, like Kaylee had mentioned. Um, this was a this was kind of just like a rural exploration project that I did in Croatia on the island of Kirk, and some more projects while I was traveling. This was in Mexico last year. These next two were in Kuala Lumpur. And then this is a photo of one of my most recent paintings. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to show you guys what I'm working on so you kind of know where I'm coming from. And then, okay, so the first topic that I wanted to talk about was creating a portfolio. And to start that off, I guess to create a portfolio, you first have to make a body of work. And usually a body of work will be like have a consistent theme or like a concept or some kind of story or a narrative, or they all like work to a similar idea. And I think like a good body of work for creating a portfolio, you want it to be strong and cohesive, refined, and you want it to be uh, I guess you want everything to work together perfectly, so it's kind of everything talks to each other and conversates. And then, so yeah, after creating all your work, I think the second most important thing is documenting your work. And for all different practices, like I guess painting and sculpture or performance or dance, every documentation is going to be a little bit different. But I guess we'll get into it more about the different kinds of platforms and portfolios later in this discussion. But I think it's important to document your work in a way that it highlights your work the best, but it's also in the environment that it suits. And then also to add on to documentation, when you are documenting a whole body of work or a certain project, in my opinion, I think the documentation should all be very similar, same format, same image sizes, just so everything is kind of visually pleasing and all works together and is systematic. And then once you have all your documents put together and your photos and they're edited and the lighting and um, I guess put together however you like, that's when you have to start inserting your portfolio to different platforms. And I guess there's a number of different platforms depending on what kind of artist you are or where you're showing your work or what you're showcasing. I guess a couple examples would be like websites, different apps, or just different file types, like if you're putting together a PDF or if you're sending someone an image list. And then I guess talking about documentation and how you display your work and kind of how your type of work should be displayed. I took a course at ACAD when I was there. And if I remember correctly, it was called Cultures of Display. And I think Diana Sherlock was the professor. But it was a really good course because it kind of just talked about how different artworks or different objects are displayed and how important the display is or how it's documented because that can make or break a product when you're just looking at something from a photo or a video. So I think that course was really informative, and I'm sure you could find lots of information about it online. But just a brief summary, it kind of just gives the example and kind of like a diverse look at how different types of art or even like for example cars or clothing how they're displayed and what things are pros and what are cons and what makes the work look better and what shows off its qualities. And so yeah, that's my section on kind of creating a portfolio. And then the next topic that I wanted to cover is the different platforms that you would be showing your work on and kind of how they all kind of display different portfolios and kind of just how they all work and what kind of to include where and when. So I think the most important platform is for all artists is your artist website. And everyone does their websites a little bit different and like some people's are like very funky and have a lot going on. Some are super minimalistic. Some people are graphic designers, so they have like lots of different projects and different pages. And then some people have a very quiet, small website. But the main objective of an artist's website is to showcase your recent work, your best work, and what you'd want to show um, your clients or your collectors or whomever, and work that you want to continue making and that you enjoy making. And then your website should be clear and the aesthetic should match and complement your work. So, like for instance, on my website, I have everything very white and very clean because my work is super colorful. So if the background of my website was super colorful, I think it would take away from the work because there'd be other things going on. So that's something to consider. And then your website should also include some information about you, your work, how to contact you, and obviously like a portfolio of the work that you want to show. And then kind of talking about different applications that artists use and I guess the pros and cons and the apps that you want to use and don't use because it's completely up to you at the end of the day. But the first one I'm going to go over is Instagram. And for me, I like Instagram a lot because I'm super visual. I like to look at stuff. So you can find millions of different artists and galleries and residency pages. So there's lots of stuff to look at, and it's visually pleasing. But some of the most successful Instagram pages that I've noticed for artists are they tend to showcase progress, process, and kind of like a story of the artist. So like maybe like what they do and when they go to the studio and their travels and different projects. So it's kind of like a story time, which is it's nice to see because then you can kind of see what other artists are doing and how they live their lives. And then another reason why I think Instagram is great is obviously you can meet so many people that you wouldn't be able to. You can connect with the community in different networks. You can see what different galleries are operating and what shows they're having. And it's kind of just like a newspaper for artists if you're looking up that kind of content. And then a most recent app that I started using that I found to be very helpful in the more business side of the art world is LinkedIn. And I'm sure all of you are aware of LinkedIn, but it's more of like a business platform and it's kind of almost showcases like your work portfolio and your resume. And then you can kind of see who works for what company or what galleries or so forth. But LinkedIn's really good for showcasing completed projects, exhibitions, and collaborations with different companies or people. It's very business oriented. It's great for seeing who's involved in different communities and organizations and what artists are at which places and kind of gives you a little bit of a scope into the business side of all the art stuff. And then organization. So when building a portfolio, I've found that you are making tons of documents and then you might have to save them as different file types. And then you're just putting in all this work and you want to keep all that stuff. So I always have a hard drive so it's on like a safe separate system. And then I save all the documents, everything I create, because then you can obviously reuse. Like if you have an image list that you need and you already have one made and it's the work that you want to show, then you already have it. So you can kind of save yourself a little bit of time. And then I try to save all my photos in the same size and resolution. So then everything's consistent and in high quality and high resolution. And then everyone always says, make sure you save everything. And then number five, I think this is one of the most important things that I always try to keep up to date is updating my portfolio. and putting up your new work and taking down old work or updating your resume and just making sure you have everything um, to present. And then the next section is so yeah, the next section I'll be talking about applying for exhibitions and galleries. And I guess I'll start off with the kind of the different spaces and kind of explain each one and talk about the differences and like kind of their objectives and how they contribute to the art world. So first of all, and commercial galleries are a great space, and it's where you get exhibitions and show your work, and they're eager to sell work, and it's great for promoting and getting your work out there and meeting collectors and so forth. And usually each gallery kind of has like they'll have like their kind of own curated artist roster, and a lot of galleries will have a certain mandate where it kind of just describes what they're into or what they're interested in and what their kind of goals are with the gallery. So it's good to kind of read those before applying to any of those so you kind of make sure you fit into their agenda. And then there's artist run spaces, which are a little bit they're a bit different from commercial galleries because I think there's a less focus on money and it's a more focus on art. And obviously they're ran by artists or art involved people. And usually artist run centers will come with like a Carfax fee or some kind of artist fee so the artist is compensated for their work and their time. And from my experience, artist run centers usually have like a bit more of an elaborate mandate, and they'll want to touch on certain themes or concepts or types of work. So those spaces can be really good when if you're really diving into a certain topic and those spaces are interested in it. And then there's exhibition spaces that are provided by the city or the community. And I'd kind of relate these to like maybe like Arts Commons or like a City of Calgary project, or maybe like a gallery space in a community center. And then kind of to relate it to the artist run centers is like their mandate again is a little bit different and it's usually obviously a bit more community based and about the city, or they kind of focus on the history of the area. But yeah, so they're a bit more about uh, the community rather than a concept. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about applying to is artist residencies, because I think they're a great opportunity for artists to experience another country, work in an unfamiliar place, and travel, and just to expand your vision as an artist. And with artist residencies, there's so many different ones that have different mandates and kind of different operations, and they're all over the world, so there are lots to choose from. But there's all kinds from that have like a specific project in mind to some that are more of like a retreat where you go there and you can just focus on research and developing ideas. And then there's some that you go to and they provide you with an exhibition or maybe you paint a mural in their city. So there's lots of different ones to choose from. And just like the other options that I've provided, they also have different mandates. So some are very direct, some are very laid back, some are
Excuse me,
by,
Rhys.
yeah.
Rhys, could you possibly, while you're talking about the residencies, do you have any sort of examples you could pull from? Or maybe show us some more of your, or tell us more specific things that happen. You showed us some photos from some of the residencies. Would you be able to offer any more details about them?
Yeah, of course. That's a great thing to mention. I'll pull up my website here because I have some stuff about the residencies here.
Yeah.
Um, Can you see, you can see my website?
Yes, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I guess kind of to give you a little bit of an introduction to my experience with residencies. My first one I did was in Rota, Spain in 2018. And I guess my first first approach to applying for these projects was just finding websites online that were kind of like a database of different residencies that they have to offer. And so the one site that I like a lot is Res Artist, and it's resartis.org. And they have a huge selection of residencies all over that have different kind of projects and themes and all that stuff. But that's how I got this project. So in 2018, I went to Rota, Spain. And with this residency, it was basically they wanted to hear a project description of what you were going to do during the time. They kind of wanted to know why you'd like to be there and how you're going to be productive. So with this project, they did have a small gallery space. So the paintings that you're looking at right now, I created during my stay. And I based this exhibition kind of off of the awnings that you see above the windows and doors. In this photo, it doesn't really, I guess in this photo up here, oh no, there's no awnings there. But in this one with the oranges, they have that stuff above the doors and windows. So I was kind of looking at those in the different colors, and that's kind of what I based my exhibition off. But then I also wrote in my proposal that I wanted to paint a mural. So I painted this project on it was a community center in Rhoda. And yeah, so this I was there for a month, and I stayed with three other artists, and each one kind of had a different project in mind, and we all had different practices. And yeah, it was a really good experience because that was the first time that I kind of went somewhere with my art and got
Could
to
you
execute a
could you
project.
sorry, could you possibly explain a little bit about why this particular piece is so much different from the other patterns you were working with?
Okay, yeah, for sure. So when I first started painting murals, it was during my time at ACAD. But when I first started doing these larger scale paintings, I wasn't very focused on optical art, and I was more so just doing like kind of geometric compositions, like the one in front of you, and just focusing on like color palettes, shape, composition, and kind of just the combination of those formal elements and how they look on a larger scale surface, and taking into consideration the architecture and the shape of the buildings. So this works a lot different from my recent stuff because I guess that was kind of like my introduction to murals still.
Hmm.
And
The
then
reason I'm asking about this one specifically is because it seems to be very site specific. I mean, it also has this very interesting organic feel to it that's different from the other works you were looking at or sorry, working on. And also the thing I find really interesting is that you've integrated the paintings, the windows as part of the composition, which I find really interesting.
yeah, so with my older public art, I always like to consider the different elements that were on the wall. So even like how there's like those squares around the windows, that's why I did that like black line at the top to kind of reflect those shapes and lines that are on the wall.
Okay.
And then yeah, this project was I titled this project The Light of the Sky. So it
Mhm.
was kind of a combination of the colors that I was experiencing while I was staying in Rhoda,
Mhm.
and like the sunsets and the water and the sky, and kind of incorporating those colors into this abstract composition.
Okay, thank you. That actually helps a lot. That's cool. Thank you.
Perfect. And then
What was the next one?
the next one is, yeah, so the next one, I actually did this one the same year as Rhoda. And I went to this small, I think it was actually considered a commune because it's so tiny, but it was called Graniti, and
Mhm.
it's in Sicily, near Catania. And this project was very similar to the residency in Spain. So I wrote that I wanted to, they didn't have a gallery or an exhibition space. So I just said that I wanted to paint a mural. And so, yeah, similar process. I got there and the coordinator kind of set up the wall. We found location, I made the design. And then this one again was this was still earlier in my public art career. So this design's a bit more minimal, but it is kind of breaching into my more recent work with like stripes and pattern. But this one again, it was based on like the different colors that I was seeing there, and orange and yellow are very popular in Sicily. So I wanted to incorporate that because this project was for um, a revitalization of the town of Graniti.
So it has a sort of a site-specific flavor to it as well.
Yeah, because when I was making the design, we had to have meetings with the town council and the coordinator,
Okay.
and I'd provided them with several different designs and colors.
Mm.
But with a lot of these projects, especially with when working with the community of the city, there are like sometimes like they wanted like orange, for instance, and they kind of explained the significance of the color and why it's important to them, and then they kind of leave that up to the artist to incorporate that into this project.
So that's an interesting aspect of the process of doing a public work is that you're actually interacting with the municipal government in terms of what they want in their space. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's definitely a thing that you don't always think about when
No.
applying or approaching these projects, but sometimes there's only a couple people involved, and then sometimes there's the whole city council or like a an artist team or so like yeah, I guess what I'm saying is every project's a little bit different, and there's a different approach and people's opinions on every project.
So can you talk a little bit about how you found this I guess it's sort of a residency, but it's almost kind of like a job too. Like how did you end up
Yeah,
getting
so this one it was I believe this program's actually still active, and
Mhm.
I honestly just found it on that website, but I was looking
Is
for
that
another project that was asking me to like do a project in the city.
okay?
And this one came up. It's actually called Graniti Murales.
Okay.
And basically their mandate kind of says that we want muralists and public artists to come to the city and revitalize and brighten kind of just like all the walls and make the city a bit more friendly and up to date.
So you found the link to this when you were exploring on Res Artists?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Wow. So is that the site that you've used for to find all of the residencies? Did you go through Res Artists for all of them?
Um, I for two of them, I found them on Res Artists, and
Hmm.
then one I found on another website that's called Trans Artists, and it's
Hmm.
TransArtists,
Okay.
and it's another similar site to Res Artists, and it's kind of just like a database of applications for different residencies.
Hmm.
And then I guess also I can add to that that I find a lot of projects also just searching on Google or searching on Instagram or Twitter or any of those things because almost all of those like residencies and big projects have social media because they want to promote their program as well. So some of those databases like they're good, but there's still so much more information that's not on them. So
Mhm.
I guess I encourage people to look deeply because there's tons of stuff out there.
Would you be able to share anything, sort of on a more visual level, like the res artists or the trans artist site? Could you pull it up quickly and just show us what a search like that might look like?
Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
So this is Res Artists, and their website's super straightforward and easy. So you just go to there's that you can type in an application deadline, or you can pick a country, or it just shows the it shows like the most recent deadlines, and then it just goes down, so you can just keep applying for stuff. But like I said, this website it has like there's so many programs. Like you could apply for months if you wanted to. But
So what
sorry, go
choice
ahead.
were you looking at traveling to specific countries, or were you looking for different specific kinds of opportunities, or just scrolling through and seeing what caught your eye, or what was your search like?
Um, I guess with so I guess my first approach when I applied for the first two was I was just kind of applying for I wasn't really too picky on where I was going, but
Mhm.
I wanted to experience something that I hadn't experienced. So I wanted
Okay.
to definitely go like I didn't want to go like one province over. I wanted to like go far away. So that was
Mhm.
one thing I was looking at. But then I think the second thing that was important to me because I like to do the public art stuff. So I was looking for projects that I could either they would provide a project or help me organize one, or they'd have the means for me to do a project. So that was kind of that's what I was looking for.
So you're
And
looking for a program that like had a lot of support. Is that
yeah,
is
and kind of kind of like showed the artist around and kind of gave a little bit of a tour because there are
Mhm.
some residencies that are very self-directed and there's almost no contact with the organizers or residency team, I guess.
Okay. You're just there and you're
Yeah, like there's some that you go to and you there's not any expectations of the artist. Like there it's more of like a research and development project.
and were you at one like that?
Um, no, I haven't done any that are kind of more research, but I think all the residencies that I've done, I've kind of made like a an agenda to make sure that I leave like a public piece of art somewhere
Mhm.
or have an exhibition or kind of just like leave something in that country or in that space.
Cool. Okay. Well,
And then
well,
I can go back and show a little bit more of these residencies here.
sure.
So then in 2019, I did another program that's still active. And so I went to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Mhm.
And this residency program was with Taksu Gallery. And I actually work with Taksu now. So I can say that they're really good people and their program was super cool. And so I made this body of work and had a little exhibition in their gallery after I left. And this one was a little bit different. It wasn't they weren't on any website or anything. I just found their like gallery website and there's a tab about their residency. And their application process was pretty straightforward. They just like send your portfolio, CV, bio, and then like a short description of like what you're gonna do during the stay. And then I guess this one was it was extra cool because Kuala Lumpur is like a pretty pretty busy and like intense city, but also this apartment that you stay in is above the gallery, and then the studio is in a separate building on the same property. So you're kind of like fully immersed in like gallery, studio, and residency. So it was a really good trip. I made a lot of cool work and got to experience Malaysia. So I'd recommend like people apply for that program because the application is very easy. It's not very intimidating, and yeah, it was a super cool time.
Hey, Reese, can I ask about what the most surprising characteristic of an artist's practice? Like what is the thing that surprised you the most coming out of school that you had to develop quickly? A skill that you had to develop that you never would have thought about as a painter in order to get these types of residencies?
Um, well, I think for me the biggest challenge was the writing aspect because I think for me and then a lot of peers that I had in art school, everyone obviously wants to make art and paint and draw and everything, but it does require a lot of writing and reading and um, theory and concepts and all those things. So when I started writing these applications and applying for projects, it is pretty intimidating because each project kind of has a different outline or they want different documents or longer descriptions or shorter. So it is like it is a new skill that you have to develop and learn, but like anything with practice and you take the time and learn those skills, then they help you in the long run.
And you had said you'd mentioned Bridget Riley as an op artist. She's a British op artist from active in the 60s, I think, right?
Yes.
As one of your influences. I mean, how did you develop your own specific style? Because I can recognize your style now that I've followed your work. How did you
hmm
develop into this kind of painter? I mean, how long did that take you to find your footing?
That's a great question. So, kind of like kind of like how I was showing you guys that mural of my earlier work. I was doing a lot of work that was more in this kind of aesthetic. And then as I was researching artists and in the studio at school, I was experimenting a lot with different shapes and colors. And I created one painting that was like reminiscent of a an op art product. And my one professor sat down with me and he was kind of like testing me, but also like, do you know what you made? And I didn't really know what I made. And then he kind of gave me all these tidbits of information and to like look up and be like, well, this is what you're doing. If you're interested in it, you should know these people and these things. And then that was kind of like my intro into it. And then I kind of just like fell in love with the aesthetic and the patterns and the colors. And then as I looked up different artists, I think this is like any kind of genre that you get into, but you kind of start leaning towards certain people or like how they use certain color palettes, and then that kind of reflects into your practice, and then you obviously want to try and make it your own.
Mhm.
But I guess with painting, it's always interesting because there's so much painting going on and so many people painting that there are so many people that do very similar work. And at the end of the day, I always like to compare it to music, and it's like how many rock and roll bands are there? And like each one is unique and different, but they all still like rock and roll as the genre. So I think it's always like a kind of there's like a balance between influence and then creativity and then combining those to kind of put your own spin on what you're interested in.
Thank you. And in in the description of this talk, you mentioned how to develop a portfolio, how to approach galleries for exhibitions. Do you have, it seems like you've done it now for a couple of years or quite a few years. How how does that process change every time you do it, or is it just something that is quite standard and you're just doing it automatically now?
So just to double check, you're asking if like the process of applying has changed over the years?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess like the best way to answer that question is it's changed over the years because like I guess like every project they have kind of a different application process, or there's like some are just email us a PDF, some are go on this program. But then also I guess as you start writing these proposals and doing it, you do get the hang of you kind of get into the groove of writing these documents and you kind of build templates and you get a lot more comfortable and your speed increases. So they do get less intimidating, but also, yeah, I don't know. There's always one that you'll work on and it you just hit like a hurdle or a roadblock. But I guess that's kind of like that's the challenge of applying for projects and trying to do new things and new ideas. So I think there's always challenges, but you do get better at it the more you practice.
Thank you.
And
And
then,
oh yeah,
sorry,
please
go ahead.
continue. No, go ahead. I'm curious about these are great images, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then last year, yes, it was last year, I did a residency in Guadalajara, Mexico. And this one was another pretty cool one because the residency is actually artist ran by this guy. He goes by the name Jupiter Fab. And he's a muralist as well in Guadalajara. So he kind of got this space and turned it into a residency, and he hosts people from all over the world. And there's an exhibition space, and then there's the residence, and then he also kind of he says that like if you want to do a public art project or a mural, that he can help you organize it and set it up because he knows a lot of people in that city because that's what he does on a regular basis. And this one was pretty cool just because it was a very easy application. I found it on Artist Res Artist as well, and yeah, I guess I kind of said it. It was a very straightforward application. It wasn't uh, it wasn't like super pretentious or like wordy. It was just very like let's see your work and we'll let you know if we select you. And then so I made like a little painting while I was there, but I didn't want to do an exhibition because I wanted to just focus on doing a mural. And I was only there for 1 month, and this is the wall. So it was a pretty big wall. I think it was 12 by 100 feet. And this is a project that is more in line with my current practice compared to like my mural in Spain. So yeah, so basically Jupiter Fab, he kind of found the wall, talked to the city, they approved the design, and then picked up all the materials and everything, and then it was time to paint. And then so I did that, and then my most recent was I was back in Kuala Lumpur, and the Taxu Gallery actually they submitted my work to this project. So it was with the W Hotel, and so this is one of the murals that I painted, and this was another one that it's more in my old style, and it's titled Malay Daybreak, and it focuses on again like the colors, the sky, and the kind of busyness of the city, and kind of like those colors and stuff that you would experience in Kuala Lumpur. So it was site specific, but also like abstract. And then here's some travel photos. And then I had an artist showcase. So they hung up some of my paintings in the hotel. And then this was the other mural that I did on another balcony that was adjacent to the other one. And this one they kind of gave me a bit more freedom and so I just chose a pattern and a palette and went back and forth with them till everyone was kind of on board.
Can I ask you a quick question, Rhys?
Yes, of
The
course.
I saw this on your website, and I'm also seeing it on these murals. What is this? It's XYZ. Is that what is that about? Is that like a signature you use, sort of a tag on your murals, or?
Yeah, so that's kind of like it's kind of just like another title that I have for my work.
Mhm.
But I mainly sign that title on my public art
Mhm.
just because like I guess with like the public artists that I'm into and the kind of approach that a lot of people have is they'll have like a an alias that's a bit more like suiting to their practice or like kind of like a more of like a nickname. So
Mhm.
so basically like, instead of putting like Rhys Douglas Farrell on my
Mhm.
murals, I just put it's XYZ. And
Okay.
then so I kind of have like a um a dual identity for my practice, I guess.
Do you find that people have trouble finding you because of that?
Um, I don't think so because I on both profiles and where I post it, I usually do somewhere my name is included, either on my website or on my other profiles. And then
Okay.
usually if people do look me up on my nickname, then it links back to my other profile. So
Well,
I think it's easy enough to orchestrate.
yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm just curious because I like it. I mean, the graphic is good. I mean, it has a nice little design element all to itself too, and it goes well with the design of the pieces as well. So nice.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, and then where was I here? So and then for applying for exhibitions and the different spaces that we went over, so commercial, artist run, city and community, and then residencies. I just wanted to briefly, I can close this here. I just wanted to briefly talk about the approach to these applications
Abs yes.
yeah, a lot of them are different and some of them are a little bit more friendly than others. So I guess my first example, I'd go into commercial galleries. And if you visit a lot of commercial galleries, websites or profiles, a lot of the times they say that they're not accepting unsolicited applications. So that basically means like if you send them your work, they're probably not gonna look at it or open it, or they don't have the time. And I kind of understand that because I know some people in those fields, and sometimes they get like 1,000 emails a day or something like that. But I guess so the approach for commercial galleries, if you're interested in one and they're in your city and you can go to the gallery, it's kind of better to like introduce yourself and kind of give a slow introduction instead of just showing them your work and being like, "Hey, I want to work with you." And then artist run spaces are, I would say for the most part, they're application based and it's online. You send in your portfolio and it's very easy and straightforward. And then I think that goes along with city and community projects. And then residencies are usually always online application because most of them are in a different city if that's what you're looking for.
Rhys, can
And
I just
then,
ask a quick question about what you said earlier?
yep,
So you were mentioning commercial galleries and how you would advise people to slowly approach the gallery.
yeah.
What does that mean? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I guess what I mean with that is like So let's say there was like a gallery in town that I was interested in working with. Um, I think a better approach than like sending them an email with your portfolio, because like I said, a lot of the time they won't view it, is going to the openings or going to the gallery and introducing yourself and then familiarizing yourself with their roster and kind of like creating conversations and like kind of not being as forward as just asking for an opportunity because like I said, those spaces get approached by a lot of people. So I think the tension when you just throw a portfolio at them is kind of it can be offsetting for them, I think.
I
So
think I think that's okay. So if you will, bear with me.
mhm.
Give me, can you do a little role play for me? Like if I was the gallery front desk admin assistant and you don't know me and I don't know you, you come into the gallery, what would you say? Like what, give our members an idea of what, how you would,
Um,
how do you start?
well, okay, so a good way for like I think let me think about this.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think this is exactly where a lot of artists stumble because
Mhm.
it's a really tough thing, right? To walk into a place that you don't know anybody, you don't know really how to begin.
So okay, so a good example, like so let's say you own a gallery and I've looked you up and I'm kind of familiar with who you are. I think what I would do if I was in that scenario is, well, I would have already looked at their artist roster, but I'd pick a couple artists that I really like, or if the current show that's up in the gallery you're very interested in, I'd approach you and say, "Hi, my name is Rhys Farrell. I was looking at the exhibition online. I thought I'd come in and talk to you because I'm really interested in so and so's work." And then kind of familiarize yourself with the space and the gallerist, and then as the conversation goes organically, they might ask you, "Oh, like, are you an artist or are you working in town?" And then you can kind of give your introduction with a little bit of a less aggressive introduction, I guess. So I guess you're kind of like sneaking your way in instead of just knocking on the door.
Do you find that thank you very much. Do you find it's easier to approach galleries through the openings when there are lots of people around, or do you like to go in during a quiet time?
From my experience, I think a quiet time would be best because even like I work with Herringer Kiss Gallery and during their openings, all the staff is very busy. There's lots of people. Some people are asking questions, some people are inquiring about work. Then they obviously have to like say hi to everyone. So I think an opening is a little bit too busy of a time, but I think going like during the day when they're kind of at a more quiet time would be the best. And I think it would be a little bit less tension in the room for you to introduce yourself and your work.
Yeah, and it helps when the gallery has a dog, right?
Yeah, gallery dogs are great.
Thank you.
And then my next point, which is like pretty pretty self-explanatory, but I thought I'd just go over it. And the most common documents that are needed for applying for any kind of project or exhibition or residency is usually it's biography, CV, artist statement, images, and then a project description, concept description, and a cover letter. And some projects ask for all of them, some projects ask for one, some ask for more. So, kind of like I've already stated, every project is unique to their own. But once you have all those documents together, then you can do numerous applications at once and then just write like a project description that's geared towards each one. So you can save a little bit of time. And then number 9, I'm going to talk about submitting. So yeah, when you're ready to submit your application, you want to make sure everything's clean, concise, and in order. A lot of these applications will some of them will want a certain word count or a certain font, or they'll want everything in one PDF. And it's really important to follow all those guidelines because a lot of those applications they will say like if the application isn't up to the standards or requirements of the application, then they won't even read it. So it's really important to have everything to their liking and like font size, file type, photo, all that stuff. And then, yeah, and then deadlines are always super strict. So make sure you get it in before the deadline or you miss the project. They're not going to look at it. And then my last topic that's like, I think it's a very important thing because you can get lost in the application process. And obviously, you're going to take lots of time writing and you're going to apply for lots of stuff. But I think it's very important to be careful what you're applying for and that it's realistic and that you're not wasting your time writing a huge proposal for something that maybe you're not ready to do or maybe you're not eligible. So then there I stated again, read the application super thoroughly, check at eligibility, look at previously selected artists, reread their mandates. If they have an artist roster, see if you're in the same realm or in that interest area. And then, yeah, make rational choices, apply for things that you're optimistic about and that you think that you're capable of doing and producing. And then I guess the most important thing is apply for projects you want and send in the work that you want to do because you don't want to do a project that you don't want to do. And then other than that, that's kind of my that's my whole spiel.
Okay, that's great. And we are going to take a break at this point for 10 minutes, everybody. We have some questions in the chat. Please go ahead and enter in your comments or questions for Rhys. So we're going to break. We're going to gather again at 8:10. Thank you, Rhys. We'll let you have a glass of water and then we'll ask some more questions. Okay, everybody. See you in 10 minutes. Okay, everybody. We'll get started in a minute or two. Just go ahead and type your question if you have one or thoughts about Rhys's experience. I just have a quick question about your what you consider to be emerging and whether you would qualify as emerging at this point, Rhys.
That's a great question because like probably in the well, probably since 2018, I've been applying for projects, and it's always kind of these. There's like emerging, established, professional, and I don't know. It's weird. It's kind of a gray area, but also it makes sense for some practices. If you just started, you're an emerging artist for sure. But there's some people I know like me where it's like 10 years and we're considered still an emerging artist, but then for some projects, you're not considered emerging artist. So
Yeah.
I think um, it's kind of like a blurred position right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that emerging is a tough term because it means something different depending on the organization, the institution. Um, After 10 years and this much work and output, I would probably start to think of yourself as being a little bit more of like a semi professional. I don't know. I
Yeah, like
don't
I don't really know where's like the mark.
I think it depends on what you're going for, right? If they want emerging artists, you'll make yourself remain emerging. Okay, let's get into these questions. Do you have to pay for flight, lodging, food on residencies? And what about your supplies and how you get your artwork home?
That's a great question. So, there's residencies of all statures. So there's residencies that you can apply for they're usually in the category of fully funded, and that means that they'll pay for your flight, they'll pay for accommodation, they'll usually have a stipend for materials or like activities that you're doing. Food is usually not included in most of these things, just because of like dietary restrictions and just like people from all over are coming, so everyone eats differently. But at the same time, there is a lot of programs. Like one I can think of right now, it's like Glenfiddich Residency, and it's like a whiskey or rye company, but their residency is like it's a pretty elaborate residency because they basically pay for everything, and you stay in like this castle, and they give you a stipend every 2 weeks. But I guess with those projects, um, they're a lot more competitive because there's a lot more reward, I guess. And then there's projects that there's residencies that are super expensive and you have to pay for everything. And then there's residencies that they cost like a decent amount of money, but they recommend you apply for like a specific grant, or like you can send an application to the city and they'll maybe fund your project and um your stay. But I guess the main answer with that is like every single one is so different, and you can kind of approach it however you want. If you want to spend a bunch of money and go somewhere like super beautiful and elaborate and not really have any expectations, then you'll probably be ending up paying. But if you go to like somewhere that's like an older city, or they're trying to get more art projects in the city, or they just have like a funding or a sponsor, then you might find one that they pay for everything. But with my kind of experience, I've applied for most of the ones that my flight and accommodation is covered, and then the project is funded by the residency, and then the artist is kind of responsible for like food and if you're traveling to other places or anything that's not involved with the residency, I guess.
And in your case, I mean, you're a public artist, so you probably don't accumulate a lot of artwork that you make that can be transported with you home. But if
Hmm.
you do you ever have artwork that you want to take with you, or, some of your studies or
Yeah, so that is something that is kind of tricky with residencies because like if you're going somewhere far away and depending on the kind of work you make, a lot of artwork is fragile. So it is kind of up to you to uh, pick the destination of the work. But there is a number of residencies that they don't really require you to make a lot of tangible work because they understand that. But there's some that you can donate your work to them and they have a gallery, or you can like try to get rid of it yourself, or you can make things that are like digital and then come home and recreate those ideas. But that is a thing about residencies and making like tangible works there, because the artist is usually responsible for the transportation of those.
great, thank you. Another question from Alice. What's the name of the course about displaying artworks?
Oh, cultures of display.
Cultures of display.
Yeah.
And a question from Jennifer. What did the residencies cost in general? You've done a lot, but
So almost all the residencies that I've done, the accommodation and flight have been covered. However, the one I did in Mexico last year, the artist ran one. I did pay for my flight, and then there was a small fee for accommodation. I think it was like $300 for the month. And he's really cool about it because he explains kind of what the funding's going towards. And it's maintaining the residency space and promoting the gallery and having exhibitions and providing like food and drinks for the opening. And so it's very transparent where your money's like you're not just like giving someone a ton of money for nothing.
great, thank you. And a question from Karen. How do you decide which images out of many? Um, Custom to call, or your history of where you started to where you are now?
Um, so I guess it depends what you're applying for or what project it is, but typically you'd want to show work that you want to recreate or elaborate on. Sometimes people will ask for your past projects and just to kind of see like a scope of like what you've completed or like timelines and deadlines. And I guess that might be more with public art stuff. But yeah, that's kind of
Thanks. And a question from Jada. Hi, Reese. How specific or general are your project proposals? How much time do you invest in each residency, gallery, or grant application?
that's a good question as well. So like I guess my writing style would be I'm very straightforward and literal. So like I guess the best way to describe it is let's say there's like 1,000 word count. I'm usually under the word count, but I think for me, like the best way that I describe my work is I say it simple. I say what I'm gonna do, and then I talk about like what I want to do as that project. But I think it's yeah, I think it's important to include a little bit of everything. And can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, of course, of course. So she was asking how specific or general are your project proposals?
Okay, yeah. So you want to be specific in explaining like what you want to do and like the concept, but you don't need to be like you don't need to go into extreme detail like exact design or colors or
Mhm.
because you're basically just describing the project. You don't want to give like a full like the full story
Yeah.
because for one, like when you do write these applications, you usually write your description or your concept,
Yeah.
and you don't want to go too precise because sometimes there are changes, or sometimes they want you to maybe speak on a theme or a certain like topic. So I think it's good to like hit your main points of what you want to do, but also leave it open for interpretation.
Hmm. And she also asked, like, how much time do you invest in each residency application or grant application? Is there a limit where, you're just like, I can't devote too much time to the unknown? Do you have
Hmm.
a way about kind of capping off the time you spend on applications?
Um, it's hard to say that there's some applications of projects that you're like you really want the project, so you're willing to spend more time. And then there's some that you're like, I could do this project, but then maybe halfway through you're like, this is killing me. So maybe you put that one to the side. But I would say like roughly like I can usually finish like a good application like front to back in like a couple days. But those are obviously like I'd probably sit down for like 6 to 8 hours and like because I do like I think I'm a bit of like a slower writer because I know some people that do write very fast, but I think usually a couple days is like a good amount for me because I usually like to write it and then think about it and then revisit and then edit and then send.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Um, Marianne is asking, what do you wish you had known when you were starting out?
Um, I think I wished I knew when I was starting out that I would be spending a lot more time doing a lot of other things than painting. So lots of writing,
Yeah,
lots of meetings, talks like this, and just kind of like everything in between, like meeting clients at different spaces, participating in festivals. So it's kind of yeah, you acquire a large set of skills once you decide to um, really bunk down on the creative path.
absolutely. I have a quick question. What do you do? And maybe you don't ever have this, but what do you do when you're working on something publicly and kind of hit a severe bump in the road, or there's some kind of an error? Or are you quite good about mapping it out before you hit your canvas, so to speak?
Um, well, I guess my experience with public art is with most clients or festivals or whoever's the coordinators, um, because murals are like permanent and they're in the public realm, people usually want to know what you're doing, and they usually want to see exactly what it is. So as an artist, you're kind of put on the stool to be like, give us your best work that you've said that you can do. So you kind of got to live up to the proposal that you write.
No pressure. No pressure. And Jill had a question about your website. Can you give us a tour of your website and how you chose it and what it does for you?
Yes, of course. Um, 1 second here. You can see my website.
Yes.
Okay, so when I was talking about websites, I kind of said that like there is such a huge variety of different websites. Like there's some people that have like a million things going on and like GIFs or memes or moving images, and like some people's that's their aesthetic. So like that suits their practice, it complements their work. But for me, because my work is very like loud and there's lots going on and very colorful, I wanted a more minimalistic approach. So then my work is the spotlight of the website. And then also there's nothing interfering with the experience of each work while you're viewing them. So kind of give you guys a little tour. My homepage, I usually just have like kind of my like recent most favorite stuff that I want people to see when they immediately visit. So these are three paintings that I made this year, and it was a new pattern that I started working with, and I kind of created it. So these are the first three that I made in this pattern. So it was pretty cool experiment. I'm pretty proud of them. So that's kind of I think the homepage is like a good kind of showcase. And then my next tab is the about. So I just have a photo of myself, and then I have like a short biography, and you guys already read it. Well, Kaylee said it.
Yeah.
And then for my studio practice, I've kind of divided all my bodies of work into different tabs just so it's a little bit easier to navigate. So my first section is portals, and these are all my projects that are moire patterns, and basically just like several sets of stripes that are each layer is manipulated a little bit differently, so they create new patterns and visual effects. So I'll just show you guys a couple works. And then yeah, so talking about documenting, like I have each photo, they have the same background, they're the same size. So just kind of like a consistent like portfolio viewing. So then it's easy to read and easy to view. And then go to my next section here. So this is great gradient paintings. So these are paintings that create a false gradient through shape and color. So these are a bit more of my minimal approach, but still in the same realm. And then Amalgamation is a series I made for Taxu Gallery in 2021. And this series was it's a little bit different than my current stuff because it's kind of a combination of these like really thick stripes that you'd normally kind of see more in my murals, then combined with my more like complex, tighter patterns that you see in my studio practice. And this series I actually made 24 paintings that are all 24 by 24. And there's a photo at the bottom of all of them installed. So this is an example of like a very like cohesive and consistent body of work. So they'll speak together, but they have different and unique elements. And then they have a lot of different patterns and combinations. That's why I titled it Amalgamation. And then yeah, so these are them. And then at the bottom here here's six more. And then this was the install of all of them in the gallery.
Incredible.
So yeah,
I
it was
have
just,
to say, this looks amazing.
thank you so much.
Amazing. Amazing
Yeah, it was
work.
a fun series because it's kind of each one is like a puzzle piece.
There's some questions I'm just going to ask as we look at your website. Um,
Yep.
what medium are you using? And are these screen printed? Any of these?
So all of my work is done with acrylic and aerosol paint. So all the work I create in Calgary, I like to paint on wood panel. But all the works that I send to Singapore are actually done on canvas, just because transporting wood panels, they weigh more and they take up more space, so it's cost efficient. But kind of my whole process is I usually gesso the background, and then I acrylic my background color, and then all my shapes and layers I do with aerosol. So then I get like a very thin layer, so then I can keep overlapping and underlapping, and the texture doesn't build up so much because the paint is so thin. And then yeah, that's kind of the material process of my painting.
Thank you. Thank you. Jill is asking, which platform did you use for your website?
Um, I believe mine is Squarespace.
Okay.
Yeah, it is Squarespace. I was using Cargo Collective before,
Yeah.
but I just find Squarespace is a little bit more user friendly because I'm not like a I don't really know like code and all that stuff. And Cargo can get pretty it's a lot more technical, I find.
Excellent.
And then the consecutive body, so you've seen these three, but then a couple older ones.
Wow.
And then the last tab in here is sculpture. And I actually just made all these this year for an exhibition I had in the spring. So these are like it's aluminum composite. So it's two pieces of aluminum with PVC in the middle. So they can bend,
Yeah.
but like they can break. So that's why I kind of have them like in a wavy kind of shape.
Okay. This is really interesting. So this work with you said aluminum.
Hmm.
Once you have fixed them into a shape, do they stay in that way or can they be changed?
Yeah, so with this material, once you bend it, it stays, but the more that you bend it, it starts to weaken. Like it's almost like what could I compare it to? I don't know, it's like an elastic band. If you kept stretching it, you know how it eventually it
Yeah.
rips. And like these are kind of like that where you can bend it a couple times, but once you start if you keep bending it, then they start to weaken because the aluminum isn't really like it bends, but it's not supposed to like keep bending. So I try to bend them once perfectly and then I paint it and then I clear coat it and then they stand how they are.
Yeah, like credit cards.
And then my mural section, we can go over there's quite a bit, but we can go over quickly. This was a project me and my friend Alex Kwong, he's another artist in town. We completed this summer. And then this was a big project I did in Edmonton a number of years ago with another artist, Michelle Hoogveld. And then this was the Science Center, Telespark Science Center. This was in contemporary Calgary last year for the Look event. And you guys seen the Mexico wall. This one's in Calgary on Center Street. And then, yeah, you guys seen these ones. Seen this one. This is another one in Calgary as well. And this was with Bump the same year that I did the orange one. And then this one's in Forest Lawn in the industrial area, actually. So it's kind of like not in like there's not any other art around it. So it kind of stands out, but it's kind of hidden. And I painted this huge road in 2020, I believe. And yeah, just a couple more projects. This was in Bosnia when I did another, I would say it was more of a self-directed residency. I just kind of just went and painted and traveled. And then this was in Calgary a couple summers ago as well.
Right. What kind of paint is used for the outdoor murals?
So typically I use lots of spray paint and then lots of just like exterior acrylic, depending on the surface, different types of paint, but usually just like rollers, brushes, and aerosol.
And how many hours are
And
we
then
talking about here, Rhys? Like, how many hours of work? Do you keep track?
um well, every project's kind of different. Some are minimal, some are super complex. But with murals, it's a very interesting timeline because some projects are more forgiving than others, and then some are, because of the scale, you can actually like work a little bit quicker. So to kind of give like a good example, this project right here, I think we did it in like 4 or 5 days, so it was very quick. But it was kind of one of those projects where it was on a really good surface. We had really good we got like really good paint, so everything like operated very smoothly and super organized. And then, for instance, this project, it was indoors, so we couldn't use aerosol. So this one, I think it took like 7 days, but we were like, it was very long days.
That really has high velocity impact.
Yeah, it was a very intense week. And then this science center one took me forever actually because it was like super hot, and then it's like the Telespark Science Center does a lot of stuff with all the kids in the summer because they're off of school. So there was like thousands of kids there every day. So there was a lot of I had to take a lot of breaks. And then there's projects like this one where the middle piece, like once the orange goes inwards, that's actually a painting that's hung on the wall.
Hmm.
So it's actually like I guess like a installation and a mural.
Mhm.
But like I painted all the pink stripes here in like one day. So
Yeah.
like every project is a little bit different.
Mhm.
And then like this Mexico one, it was a huge wall, but I think I painted it in like 5 days because everything kind of just went as planned and I got in like a good routine. And
Yeah,
yeah, sometimes things just work out faster and better than you expect.
that's
And
good.
then I guess my last section I can show you guys is kind of my hidden walls, or because usually when I go traveling, I like to go and find like abandoned places or kind of like just like more like seedy areas that like people aren't using structures anymore and go and paint or explore. So this, when I went to Croatia, I actually found an abandoned hotel resort, and I basically just packed a bag of paint and like food and lunch and everything, and I took an Uber there, and I painted for the whole day. So I kind of just found different areas and walls that I found interesting, and then I tried to like complement them or add really crazy stuff. So this one I'm showing you right now is actually it was on a section that was where the staff of the hotel would stay. So these rooms were like a bit more personable, and there was actually like a lot of items. Like it was actually very like apocalyptic. And then this was actually like the maintenance facility of the hotel. So inside these buildings, there was like all like water pumps and like all that kind of stuff. And and then I went inside the hotel, and if you look really closely, there's a ladder on one of those beams. So I climbed up the ladder, and then I picked this blue section here, and I painted that. And I actually painted that, and then I had my lunch and like looked at the Adriatic Sea for a couple hours. It was pretty cool.
Very cool.
And
A
then
quick question, as you're scrolling, just a
yeah,
quick question, if we could ask, what platform do you use for selling your work? Or do you exclusively sell through the gallery, through Herringer Kiss?
okay, that's a good question. So in Alberta, I only sell my work through Herringer Kiss, and then in Singapore, Malaysia, Taxu, they sell my work as well. And then other than that, like if someone contacts me in like the States, or I've had a couple people contact me through LinkedIn that have wanted to purchase work. And as long as you're not I guess like breaking any of the contract rules or agreements that you've made with your gallerist, then by all means you can sell your work, but you never want to go back on your word. So whatever you sign, whatever you say, like stay true
Mm,
to what you said.
yes, have integrity. That's great.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Okay, continue. These are really interesting, kind of off the wall.
Yeah, and then this was the last one I painted, and this was actually like the maintenance. This was the entrance to the maintenance. So like where that pathway goes in, the yellow one was around the corner. And then yeah, that was what I documented from that I guess adventure, if you want to call it. And then you guys, I showed you all the residency tabs. And then my last tab is just like artist contact. You can email me, and then I have my Instagram and email connected, so you can just click and talk.
Wonderful. And I just want to remind everyone at this time, thank you so much for attending this talk. Rhys, thank you so much for the time you've given us.
No problem.
I'd like to just remind everyone to please provide feedback on this workshop. And in the following form, there's a link in the chat. We also really appreciate any ideas that you might have in terms of future talks. If you want to see something from a specific genre of art or a specific aspect of a practice, please let us know. We do look at this a lot, and we try to respond by programming specific types of people. And please consider becoming a member of EAR. It's very affordable, only $25. For a small fee, you can have access to all of our workshops, recordings, presentation materials, and much more, including discounts to local retailers and health and wellness providers, and access to group health benefits. So these are significant benefits for only $25 a year. Follow the link canadahelps.org to become a member of EAR. We do really good work in the community and try and provide a lot of practical resources. And I'm just reading to see if we have any other. Can you become a member if from a different province? And would any of the benefits still work? I might find out.
Absolutely.
Marianne.
I will answer that. So yes, absolutely. We have lots of members who are from out of province. We even have members who are out of country. There are some benefits that absolutely will translate for you. For instance, if you're in Canada, access to health benefits is nationwide. The pilot art list, there is a hypnotherapist who will work virtually with you. Some of the benefits and discounts are actually in the Calgary area, but you would have access to all of the EAR workshop recordings, presentation materials, and a lot more information for our members that we provide.
Thank you, Marianne. And if that's all the questions we have, I would like to thank Rhys once again. Thank you so much for all of your preparation and help. All of the advice you've given is really invaluable. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So everybody, I hope you have a good night. Be safe out there. It's winter now. Ice and shovel your sidewalks and what did it? Salt your sidewalks, right? Salt them. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a good night. Rhys, just stick around and we'll say goodbye together. See ya.
Okay. See you guys.
Okay,
It's just us.
so it's just us again. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Oh,
Yeah, that was great. We really appreciate it. That's recorded. So if you want to use the YouTube in any way, feel free.